Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. We are doing February favorites today, and I have got some good ones this month, you guys. I will be honest, after my January full month of nothing new, I went a little crazy this month. I tried out a lot of new makeup during the month of February, but I found some really good stuff that I am super excited to share with you guys. I've got some older favorites in here that I discovered as well, including one or two things that I think may have been discontinued, but I have been loving them. So we'll get into all of it in just a minute. Before we do, I would like to welcome any of you that are new to my channel. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up if you do, and make sure that you are subscribed before you leave. But I do have quite a few things to mention today, so let's jump right in. Why don't we kick things off with some Juvia's Place. I did a video recently, I think last week, maybe the week before, where I talked about these 4 palettes that I picked up from Juvia's Place this month. I have so been loving these, you guys. These are really the only palettes I've been using for the last 2 weeks. Every single day, I'll alternate between the 4 of these. And I love all 4 of these for different reasons. And to be honest, I wasn't sure I was going to love these because it took me a long time to decide to try these smaller palettes out from Juvia's Place, despite the fact that if you don't know, if you are new, I am a huge Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette fan. But I've been having so much fun with these. So I am wearing these shadows on my eyes today. Today I have a mix of the Chocolates palette, which is this palette right here. Oh man, you guys, this is probably one of my favorites of the bunch. It is so rich and delicious. If you like rich chocolatey eyeshadows and bronze tones, this is such a good one. But it doesn't give you a whole lot of lighter shades, so I did mix it today with this palette right here. This is the Nudes palette. So I have this shade in my transition, and then this gold shade in the corner here is the one that I have on the inner part of my lid. And then from this palette, I am wearing a mixture of these 2 browns in my outer corner. That's the depth that you see there. And then I have this kind of cool toned bronze on the outer part of my lid. I just love this eye look today. It is so warm, so rich, so chocolatey. But I really have been loving these 2 palettes as well, the Vanessa palette and the Toast palette. These are both really fun. I know you guys have seen me use these in recent videos. And then here's the Vanessa palette. I did use this in my try-on video where I featured these palettes. The first video I featured these palettes in. I know this is like the 3rd video in a row that I have mentioned these palettes. You're probably tired of hearing about them, but I have been loving them. I could not mention them in my favorites video today. I do just want to mention, I may have touched on this before, but these 2 palettes right here, especially this one, the Nudes palette, and I'd also say a similar thing about the Taupes palette. If you like darker tones, it's probably obvious looking at these 2, especially this one right here. This one is very, very light in tone. If you like really light toned eyeshadows and or you have very fair skin and you don't like a lot of richness and depth, this would be a really good palette for you. But if you do like depth and richness, this one is not going to give you that. You're going to need to combine it with something else, whether that be this palette or just some other dark shadows that you have in your collection. But I do really love this one. There are some really beautiful shades in here. These shimmers are all really lovely. I love this rose. I don't know what I call it, a rose gold. Yeah, I guess I would kind of call that a rose gold. It's really pretty. It actually looks lighter on the lid than it does in the pan, so just be aware of that. The shades in here are quite light. And probably for that reason, if you're looking into these palettes and maybe wanting to pick out just 2, I'd recommend this one in combination with maybe one of these 2 or even 3. Although if you want just like a good mix all around, I think the Vanessa one's a good option because you get good range from light to dark. Not sure that's very helpful for you guys in making decisions because I do love all of them, but I just think that's something to be aware of. Another palette I've been very impressed with is the Canyon palette from Alter Ego. I did do a comparison video of the 2 new palettes Alter Ego came out with, the Canyon and the Blooms palette. This one is meant to be a dupe for the Natasha Denona bronze palette. I did do a comparison to the original bronze palette. I will link that video for you guys right here. I also compared in that video the Blooms palette compared to the Natasha Love palette. Those 2 are also meant to be dupes, and I think as far as dupe palettes go, they really, really impressed me. I will just say though, of all the Natasha Denona palettes that I own, I have all of her smaller or mid-size palettes as well as her full-size Safari palette, but her Bronze and Love palette, which these 2 are meant to dupe, are probably my least favorite of the palettes that she has done. But that said, they are still really good, and this is a really good dupe for the bronze palette. And I do love a lot of the bronze shades in here. I've talked about this issue a lot. I just wish there were a couple more lighter tones in here because I always love putting something bright on my inner corner, my inner lid. But if you like warm shadows and you like something very bronzy and you're looking for a good alternative for the Natasha Denona bronze for 16 bucks, I just don't think you can beat this. The packaging is great. The formulas are great. I think they're very comparable to Natasha Denona's formula. I was just very impressed with this one. I think it's a really great palette. Let's jump over to a highlighter that I've had for a long time. I don't know that I've ever really talked about this. I don't even know if I've used it on camera for you guys. It's one that I kind of shoved to the back of a shelf and forgot about, but I pulled it out recently. It's from Folklore Cosmetics. This is their Superstar Highlighter palette. I love this little palette. It is a really good highlighting palette. This shade right here in the corner, I'm not super fond of. I don't really like holographic or duochrome highlighters, and this one does have a really strong, I don't know that it'll pick up on camera, but it has a strong pink shift to it. But other than that specific shade, these three shades are all really lovely, really nice formulas. They remind me a lot of the Becca formula or the Wet n Wild Precious Petals. That formula also reminds me of the Becca formula. Really nice palette. I'm not quite sure the price on these. When I first was introduced to Folklore Cosmetics, like around the time I got this palette about a year and a half ago, they had some really fantastic sales going on. Most of the things on their website were 40 to 60% off, but the last couple times I've checked, they haven't been running any sales, and when their stuff is not on sale, I don't know that I think it's worth it. So if you can find this on sale, I'd say go for it, but if it is more than $10, I don't know. But that's just how I think. I think a Folklore is kind of a affordable brand, so when their things aren't super affordable, I get a little bit annoyed. But that said, I do think these highlights are really, really nice. The packaging on this is really adorable. It's got this kind of like rainbow effect on it, and I have been using this a lot over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Alright, back over to Juvia's Place. I forgot to mention this when I was talking about the palettes, but this right here is a lipstick from Juvia's Place. This is one of their nude lipsticks. This is in their mauve nudes in the color Chic. I am in love with this lipstick, you guys. I was a little bit hesitant the first time I tried this out. I tried it out on camera in my first video where I tried out those palettes, but you guys, this has grown on me more and more with every passing day, and it's really the only lipstick I've been wearing for the last 2.5 weeks. Here it is right here. I am wearing it on my lips today. It is the most beautiful shade of pink. It's a pink it's a strong pink, but it's just short of being too pink for me. I'm very, very picky with my pinks. I don't like pinks that are overly warm or peach toned, but I also don't like when they go overly pink and kind of Barbie toned. I also don't like them too light, and I don't like them too mid-toned. There's like this very special range that my pinks need to sit in for me to love them, and this one perfectly sits in that range. Now the first time I tried it out, I think I put it on a little more heavy-handed and I thought it might be a little bit strong for me, but as I've worked with it a little bit more, it is a very pigmented lipstick. Just using a light layer of this and then a little bit of gloss on top gives me the most perfect nude lip. I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful cooler toned pink without being too cool toned, which I found that type of a color can be very kind of youthful or brightening to my face. I don't know what it is about this shade. I just feel like it looks really nice with my complexion. I'm really excited to use it in the summer because this is the type of shade I think will be perfect on a little bit more of a bronzy, lightly tanned skin or makeup look. And the formula is really nice. It's a matte formula, but it's a very creamy matte formula. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury formula. These are $14 full price. I did pay $14 for this lipstick, which I initially was like, oh, really? Should I have done that? But I'm actually so happy that I did. I think this is well worth it. Great shade, great formula, beautiful packaging. All around, just very, very impressed with this lipstick. To go along with that lipstick, I have a gloss. This has been discontinued, so you can put your wallets down and take a deep breath. This is from Colourpop. This is their Fairy Floss lip gloss. I think this was a lip gloss done in collaboration with Kathleen Lights. I think it came out a couple of years ago. I was a little bit late to the game on this one. I picked it up about a year ago, and I think it's been discontinued now, which is so unfortunate because this is such a great lip gloss. It has the perfect amount of pigment. It looks great on its own. It pairs beautifully with any lipstick or lip liner. And the formula is really, really great. If you guys have tried out more of Colourpop's lip glosses, I know that they've been changing their lip gloss formula. They now have the smaller sizes, the lip glosses and lip oils. I do love that lip oil. I just don't like the smell of it very much, but the formula is really, really nice. But let me know if you guys have found an alternative for this lip gloss, because I do love this shade and this formula so much. But I have a feeling these are kind of being phased out, and this one is sadly no longer available. But if you have it sitting in the back of your drawer and yours is not yet expired either, although mine's probably getting close, pull it back out and give it a use because this thing is amazing. One more lip product. I have a lip liner to share. This is the LA Girl Ultimate Intense Stay Auto Liner. I love the eyeliner version of these. This is the lip liner version. I got this in my somewhat recent Ulta order. I am so in love with this lip liner, you guys. This actually reminds me a lot of the formula of the Essence lip liners that I've talked a lot about. Here it is right there, but this is a better shade. I think if you like a shade that's not too pink or too peach or too pigmented, this is nice and dark, but it doesn't turn too pink on me. And that's a problem I have with a lot of lip liners, especially drugstore lip liners. I find a lot of them are just too pink. And when I put them on my lips, they turn whatever I put on top of them bright, bright pink. They're a little bit stronger than I like them to be, but this one doesn't go in that direction. It's just a good nude. It is pink, but it has a little bit of like a cooler kind of gray undertone that makes it pair nicely with pretty much anything I put on top top, whether I'm going with a nude that's a little more cool toned or a little more warm toned, or if it's a nude that's a little bit lighter or a little bit more on the medium tone. This seems to pair with just about anything. And the formula is really good. I do think it's pretty long lasting. It's not Charlotte Tilbury long lasting, which I was kind of crossing my fingers that it would be. It's not quite that grippy and strong and intense, but it does stay really well, especially if you put it on your lips before you have any other product on, and if you give it some time to set, it will last for quite a few hours. Let's talk about a couple of blushes. So first off, the Milani blush. I've really been loving this blush. In my recent Ulta try-on video, I tried out the Milani blush side by side with the e.l.f. Putty blush. I like them both a lot, but I think I prefer the Milani one just a little bit more. I like the subtle dewiness that this one gives to my cheeks. It's not greasy, but it has this subtle like tack to it that keeps my cheeks looking and feeling a little bit bouncier, a little bit more hydrating. The e.l.f. one does have more of like a powder or satiny finish. It definitely is a different finish. It's not quite as tacky, not quite as dewy. If you like something more mattifying, or maybe if you have oily skin, you might prefer this one. This one, by the way, is in the shade Tahiti. I do really like it. I just think texture-wise, I've been leaning more towards the Milani one, which, by the way, is in the shade Cheek Kiss. And one more thing to note, both of these blushes I have found apply a little bit better with my finger than they do with a sponge or a brush. Another blush that I have been loving this month is an old favorite. This is the Persona Carmel blush. This is the cooler tone pink. This is such a pretty shade, you guys. If I am doing a cooler toned eye, which I have been doing a lot of cool toned eyes this month, I think I've mentioned that a few times, between the Totes palette right here, the Blooms palette, the Side by Side palette, my Natasha Denona Glam palette, I've just really been into cool tones this last month, and this blush pairs so beautifully with a cool toned eye. I love this. I love the formula of Persona's blushes. They're the perfect formula. They're really easy to use. They go on really quickly. They blend out seamlessly, beautifully, and they're pigmented without being overly pigmented. They're just right in my opinion. Let me know if you have more medium to deep skin. If you've tried this shade out or even her Georgia shade, let me know how that works for deeper skin tones. I find they both work great on my skin tone, and I do know they've come out with one more shade. I haven't tried that one out yet. It's been on my radar. We'll see. I do have a couple of foundations to mention. One is old, one is new. Let's go with the new. The e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. I have been loving this last month, you guys. I've been very impressed with this stuff. It does remind me a little bit of my It Cosmetics CC Cream. Now, I did mention in the video where I featured this that I don't have the original CC Cream. I use the Illumination version, and I love it. It's one of my favorite base products. This does not have the glow that that one has, but the consistency and the coverage of this does remind me a lot of that one. It feels really nice on the skin. It's a very thick formula, so be aware of that. If you like something more runny, more liquidy, this one is a lot thicker. This does remind me a little bit of the Milani Conceal and Perfect foundation. Maybe not quite that high of coverage, but it does have pretty good coverage. I would say this is a solid medium coverage foundation. It covers pretty much everything I need it to cover. It has a really nice natural finish. It's not too dewy, but it's not mattifying in any way. It just lets your kind of natural glow come through without adding any sort of glow. It's just a really good finish, really good coverage. I love the shade. For me, it's the shade 240W, which seems to match perfectly. I've been super impressed with it. I'm not super impressed with the price tag on this. Coming from e.l.f., this thing was $14. So if I was to buy this again, I would either try and find this at a Target or a Walmart, because usually e.l.f. products are significantly cheaper there than they are on Ulta's website. Not always, but sometimes. Or I would wait for a sale from e.l.f. because $14, that is pretty pricey for any drugstore foundation, especially from e.l.f., which I consider to be one of the most affordable brands at the drugstore. So that surprised me, but it is great. I have to give it that. Another one that I have pulled back out from my drawer and been using is my Misha BB Cream. Classic. I love this stuff. Jessica Braun led me to this one a while ago. I think about a year and a half ago. I tried this out for the first time. I absolutely love it. It is strongly scented, which is something I failed to mention the first time I featured this, and a couple of you tried it out and said, "You forgot to tell us, Mandy, how strongly scented this is." So if you have sensitive skin, be aware this is pretty heavily scented. I don't mind it. It doesn't seem to bother my skin at all, and some scented products do. This one doesn't seem to, though. I do love the coverage of this. I have it in the shade 27. I also have two other shades. I have the shades 21 and 23. Those are both too light and too ashy. They actually turn a little bit pink on my skin. This one has a lot more yellow in it, and it's a little bit deeper. It works really well for my skin tone, especially come spring and early summer. This will probably match me perfectly. It's a hair too light for me right now, but I can get away with it because it's not too heavy of coverage. This one I do think is a little bit more dewy than the e.l.f. one. So if you like something a little bit more hydrating with a subtle dewy finish, finish. I do think this one has a slight dewy finish. I wouldn't call it dewy by any means. Not Wet n Wild Dewy Foundation, not It Cosmetics Illumination, not even Flower Beauty Light Illusion. Those are much more dewy. This is kind of between those two finishes. By the way, this stuff is super affordable. I think you can find it on Amazon for around $10. You can also get it from Yes Style, and you get a lot of product in here. You get about 1.5 ounces. So I'm actually impressed this is not gone yet, because this is one of my overall most reached for base products, and it still is going pretty strong. It feels like there's quite a bit of product inside here still. Last thing to mention is a set of brushes. So these are the Alter Ego brushes the Alter Ego sent me. I need to mention that. They did send me these. By the way, they also sent me the Canyon palette. I don't know if I mentioned that in this video. So big thank you to Alter Ego, but I've been very, very impressed with these brushes. They sent me their other set of brushes, which are just some eye brushes, the smaller set, and I thought those were pretty good as well, but I love this brush set. I think you get some really good face brushes, particularly this brush right here. I have been using this so much recently. I've actually been reaching for this over some of my rougher brushes. Part of the reason for that is because I recently washed my rougher brushes and I just don't want to get them dirty. But this is such a good brush. It's a good multi-purpose brush. It has a really good shape. You can use it for blush. You can use it for bronzer. You could obviously use it for powder. And I'd say you could even use this for highlight because it kind of has a pointy tip. Just a good all-around face brush. I also like the angled face brush, although this is not a shape of brush that I use very often. But the eye brushes are really great as well. I've been using them a lot. I've been very impressed with the versatility of this set of brushes. You have everything inside here that you would need to create pretty much any type of eye look. You've got some good blending brushes. You've got a smudge brush. You've got an angled brush and a spoolie, and even one of those flat kind of concealer packing brushes. I love using these brushes for either putting concealer on my eyelid, which I don't do super often, but I do on occasion. Like to press some concealer on my eyelid if I'm going for like a really dramatic, kind of bold, fancy kind of look. This comes in really handy for that. It also works really well for just packing shimmer on your lid if you don't like to use your finger. And you also get a tiny detail kind of outer corner or smudge brush. Very impressed with these. I've been really happy with the way these have performed, not just on the Juvia's Place palettes, but the other palettes that I've been using them in. And I think for the price and the versatility across the board, this is a pretty good brush set. If I have an Alter Ego code, I think it saves you like 10%. I will link it down below if you want to use it. No pressure, but I do think these brushes and the palettes are great. And that, you guys, is it for all of the things I have been loving this past month. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I would love to know what you guys have been loving during the month of February. Have you discovered any amazing new finds? Have you found any old favorites that have kind of crept back into your life? Please let me know down in the comments below. But that is it for today. I hope that you guys are doing well. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, for watching this video, for spending your time with me. I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't yet subscribed, I hope that you'll do that before you leave. But that is it for now. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
No, but it's not working. It's not moving.
It's weird. Stop making the faces. Can't help it. I like to make faces. I always have. And my kids used to love it. Now they're all old. They don't think I'm funny anymore. And I don't care. Now it's just fun to embarrass them.